one of the themes that emerges from your comments is the importance of mentorship. I heard you mention Tom Garfinkel a couple of times. Can you talk to us a little bit about what mentorship has meant for you and what it should mean for someone?
Yeah, so I think it means something different for everyone. And I've been lucky, throughout different phases of my career to have different mentors, both sort of on a formal and informal basis. And my first, real professional mentor was my boss at Elon. His name was Peter Tolchinsky. So Elon is a very student-run university where all the programs on campus are run by the students. So the campus recreation program, go down the list, are all their student leaders. And I worked for campus recreation. I got a job there as an official for the intramural program my sophomore year, and I was 19. And the program was run by a senior. Every year, a senior is the one who's in charge of all these programs across campus. And for whatever reason, Peter elevated me to sort of be in charge of the program as a sophomore, and he believed in me in a way that I didn't see in myself. And he was very diligent, detail-oriented, thoughtful, read a lot about leadership and goal setting and like sort of this idea of tracking improvement and how do you measure your results. And that was my first exposure to that. So he was an incredible professional mentor through Elon. And then, when I got to the Dolphins, it was Tom, who I've mentioned a number of times. He still is a great mentor of mine. And Dan Casperson was the other gentleman. So he was a longtime executive at Target and Toys R Us. And he was a friend of Tom's, and he brought in Dan to be an HR consultant right around when he started. And Dan went around and interviewed everyone in the organization. At the time, it was, in the business side, it was some 200 people or something. He went around and he met with everyone. Half an hour over the course of a month, he met with everybody in the organization, and he took notes. And he's an expert judge of talent and people. And his charge from Tom was to evaluate the people at the organization, make recommendations on structure and changes, to really try to perform at a level that Target and Toys R Us has, from an organizational, standard of excellence. And I think I was one of the last people to meet with Dan at the time. And I wouldn't believe this if he didn't keep the notes, but he showed me the notes many years later. The only note he had on my page was my name at the top, and he just wrote HR in big letters and he circled it. So that was when I was working in legal at the time. So that was part of the pivot to go work into HR with Dan. So I was attached to Dan's hip for a full year. And he was a consultant. He was never really an employee. He was sort of he was in retirement for the third time, whatever it was. But I spent every day with Dan. I picked his brain. I asked him a million questions a day. I always joked that, I would eat lunch and Dan would call me and say, "Have you had lunch yet?" And I'd say, "No, I haven't had lunch." So I gained 15 pounds working for him because I just wanted to soak up this knowledge and learn. So he was an incredible mentor in that specific, side of my career, and he still is. He's filled with wisdom. He's seen and done everything in the world, and he came from retail, where retail has tens of thousands of employees. So if you want to talk about, expertise relative to scaling performance management or hiring, like he's like arguably the world's best at it. So he was really a great mentor for me.